what he's talking about is known as the problem of evil. Epicurus said, he said, look, if God is so great, if God is so kind, if God is so benevolent, if God is so nice, why is there evil in the world? Why are little children, dying from cancer, like he said? Why is there evil in the world? Either God doesn't care, he's not so nice, or he can't do anything about it. Either way, he's not a God. So if he was a God, if he was perfect, he would care and prevent it. And if he cannot prevent it, then he's not all powerful, therefore he's not a God. So in their mind, they're saying, look, there can't be a God. But here's where they shoot themselves in the foot. Here's where the position is self-defeating. And again, this is a very old argument, what he's bringing up. It's a very, very old argument. It's a very short-sighted argument. Is how would you know there's evil if there is no God? If we live in a cold, dead universe, if we're nothing but chemicals and particles, if we're nothing but materialism, if everything is chemistry and physics, it would be like saying sticks and stones are complaining about evil. If we are just sticks and stones, if we are just physics and chemistry, there is no such thing. If there is no God, there is no such thing as evil. By saying you see an evil in the world, you are admitting that there is a God. This is not just me saying, this is a rationalist throughout the ages. Because without God, there is no evil. Without God, there is no right and wrong. If there's no God, everything is permissible. This is a classic quote here throughout. I'm forgetting the author's name. But if there is no God, everything is permissible. There is no halal or haram. There is no good or bad. There's no evil. How come, if we're nothing but machinery, this is the classic rebuttal to his question. How come if we are machinery, how come if we are nothing but physics and chemistry? How do you even know? How come you're conscious of evil? This is the question. Now he has to have some introspect here. And he's going to say, look, I see the world as good and bad. But this is a classic question in the works of Plato. It's called the Euthyphro dilemma. Does God say something is haram does God say something is evil or good because it has the germ of evil or good within it? Or is it evil or good because God said so? Murder could have been good if God said murder is good. He could have flipped it. It's relative to what God's opinion is. Or is murder in itself evil? This is a Euthyphroian dilemma. This man is saying, look, I see evil in the world, but I don't see a God. There is no evil in the world. If you are truly an atheistic materialist philosopher, it's a self-defeating position. There is no evil. Why do you think Stalin and Hitler could kill millions of people and then sleep well at night? Because in their minds, they didn't believe there was good or evil. Killing somebody, if I remove your head off your shoulders, it's the same as if I move this coffee mug from one place to the other on my desk. It's just I took material and I rearranged material from one place to another. If you're truly an atheist, a human being is just a machine. It's like removing the wheel off your car and replacing it with another wheel, or scrapping your car completely. It's just physics and chemistry. There is nothing else. By saying he sees evil in the world, this is what Hume called, you can't get an ought from an is. The world is this way, and now you're saying it ought to be this other way. So for instance, he sees a child with cancer and he's saying, look, it ought to be a child with no cancer. That child should have a perfect life. Hume is saying, look, if we're going to be atheists, if we're going to say there's no God, we cannot say ought. We cannot say this, the world should ought to be like this if we are atheists. So the fact that he's taking this position is self-defeating. So what is science? Because for instance, if we ask, what is architecture? Well, architecture is a science. It's the art. Let's call it the art of building structures. Okay, great. What's martial arts? Martial arts is the art of defending yourself. Okay, what is science? Science ultimately boils down, when the philosophers of science, when we ask them, what is this animal you call science? What does it do for us? Well, it predicts patterns and regularities found in nature. Whatever we believe that patterns and regularities of the past will occur again in the future. So they're not talking, their job is not to talk about spirituality or God. They're not looking for God. Science is not looking for God. That's why science doesn't tell us anything about God, unless we go into the philosophy of science. Okay, now that's a separate subject. What does science do? Science is trying to tell us, here are the patterns and regularities we find in nature. It's moot to science. It doesn't talk about God at all. It has nothing to do. You could be an atheist scientist, or you could be a serious believer in God and be scientific. People conflate this all the time. Science is trying to tell us what medicines cure what ills. And that's just the science of medicine. In every domain of science, science is trying to tell us, these are the patterns and regularities we have in this domain. That's it. It doesn't talk about God. It doesn't talk about introspection. It doesn't talk about morality. In science, there is no morality. There is no, there is no psychology. They're trying to remove psychology out of, again, psychology is a different science, but they're trying to remove any bias they can